They've got like 105-star football players on their defense. They have a defensive lineman that weighs 340 pounds and runs better than everybody on this call. 5-star recruits everywhere, and they play really physical. Damn.
I think Memphis played more mature than we did. I think that, which I don't even know exactly what that means, but they were more advanced than we were. And then sometimes morale doesn't need to be boosted. Now, you need to boost something, but it's not always morale that needs to be boosted. And between now and tomorrow, I'm going to figure out what it is that needs to be boosted. And whether I'm right or not, we're going to boost something.
Well, like I told him, I mean, we're not satisfied by any stretch, but you can't ever apologize for a win.
We don't have to have the best players. We just have to have the best team. Our kids have bought into that.
Listen, potential is the worst thing you can have. Because that means you ain't done it. I hate the word potential. When somebody says you got potential to have a good team, that drives me nuts. That means I'm not coaching right and they're not playing right.
Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And we're back for another day of SEC action. Spring football in the air. We got news and notes from all across the league. We got a pro day, a little update here. We're going to talk some Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Tennessee. So let's get right on with the show. One thing that has struck me so far, and fingers crossed it stays this way, at least in terms from an injury standpoint, but it's been a really quiet spring in the SEC, which again is great news because you don't want to be losing guys, and that's basically the biggest storylines that come out are transfers and injuries these days. So, you get a good sense of what's going on. I know everybody gets hyped about these competitions, but now that we got the transfer portal to deal with, let's take an example like Texas A&M. That's where we're going to start in College Station. In years past, you have a quarterback competition, and a lot of times you want to name that starter exiting the spring. Going into the spring game, you have your guy, you settle on him, you build around that during the off season, but you just don't have that luxury these days. And I would be stunned if anywhere outside of maybe South Carolina, Spencer Rattler names a starting quarterback here in the SEC when I'm talking a program, specifically Texas A&M, because you don't want the battle between Haynes King and Max Johnson. You don't want that to be decided early and have quarterback depth be tested yet again like it was last season if you're Jimbo Fisher. So it's interesting. Jimbo met with the media here on Tuesday, asked about the quarterback competition, didn't really reveal a ton on Max Johnson or Haynes King, but interestingly, he's basically expanding it. We're going three-man now here with the freshman making his way up the depth chart here in College Station. So let's kick it over to Jimbo Fisher.
I think all three made plays. No, I say both. All three made plays. And all three got rotations with ones and twos in different groups. And where we did, like I say, we started off, so I thought the first defense was really good, which kept us off the field. And I thought, is that when as Haynes started really picking it up, started making plays later than that? I thought Max come out and did a really nice job, had some plays. Again, he had a couple mistakes here and there on reads and things. We got to get better. And I thought Connor, for his first scrimmage, was excellent. I thought he made a lot of plays and actually got some time with the ones and actually got time with twos. So I thought he handled both of those situations extremely well. In our 2-minute situations, all guys that we worked 2-minute, we worked red zone, we worked goal line, we worked all kind of things across the board, different situations in the game, a lot of third down stuff. And I thought he handled that very well too. So all three guys had some really bright moments and some things they got to work on to stay more consistent and allow us not to get behind the 8 ball.
So you see what he did there. Hell, he's praising the freshman Connor Weigman here. Hell, maybe he is that good. Maybe he will win the starting job. It seems like that is going to be a tough ask, though, for a true freshman, given what we know about Jimbo Fisher and the complexity of his system. And, I don't know any true freshmen that come in here and start. Even Zach Calzada last season, I believe it was his third on campus last season. And at times it looked like he was still putting it together. I know he had a lack of experience, but of course you're going to be dealing with that with the true freshman as well. So, I'm taking these comments with a grain of salt, but I'm just reading into this, like I said, that there is not going to be anything decided in College Station until training camp. And, you just hope it doesn't go into the season, because that can be a recipe for disaster with all the high hopes they got in College Station. But that was far and away not the best comment we had from Jimbo here on Tuesday. I just think this was fascinating, and I get a sense that, he really likes the roster he has, loves the talent. How could you not? I was arguing with people about this the other day on Twitter. Texas A&M does have the talent profile to go to the college football playoff. That's why you're going to start seeing, if you haven't already, Texas A&M preseason top 10, Texas A&M possibly preseason top 5, and a ton of that has to do with the talent on the roster, combined with Jimbo Fisher's pedigree of being a national championship coach and damn near took the Aggies to the college football playoff 2 seasons ago. But listen to Jimbo's comments here on leadership, somewhat lacking right now in College Station. That's what spring and the offseason is for, us developing those leaders, still searching for them at Texas A&M. And how bad do these players really want it? You got to have that want to. And, it seems almost a little Nick Saban-esque here, message to his players through the media.
Are you seeing that leadership going?
Not like I want. Honestly, not like I want. We need more leadership. We need more leadership, and that doesn't always have to come from seniors, and I think that's something that we need to enhance on. I think they need to start putting their impression on the team a little bit more in what we do, and not with enough consistency in our leadership. I think, not that they're bad, but I think we need more, and I think we need more assertive type guys in leadership and what we're trying to do and where we're at. Everything. This game is about pushing through. That's what you want. You want to make it hard. You want practice to be challenging. You want it to be tough. You want it to be demanding. This is what you find out. And listen, talent goes out the window. At the end of the day, it's how much you want, how hard you can compete. Look at the Final Four. Duke's been beat twice in the last 5 minutes of the game. Said, you know what, we ain't losing. And raised their level of play and just got down and competed, and our practice habits come straight out. North Carolina did it 2 weeks ago, not against St. Peter's, but the game before. All those teams, Kansas was down at halftime. I mean, you just watch the basketball, and you watch how guys push through and how those really good teams can elevate themselves. And they don't elevate themselves. They just focus themselves and play up to what their capabilities are and what their practice habits are, in my opinion. Those guys just young. I haven't seen as much basketball as I want, but those 3 games I happened to see those games. And, man, it would just impress me, not that they won, but how they won, how they refused to lose. And I think that's a credit to their culture and the coaching and the things they got. Oh, yeah, we got plenty of depth. We got plenty of depth. Got to get guys to keep going and make them plays. We got plenty of depth. There's plenty of guys out there who can make plays, can run and do it. Just need to do it with a consistent basis.
So based on these comments here, looks like Jimbo's tired of these 8-4 jokes we're seeing constantly, all day, every day. We mentioned the Aggies. So things have got to get better here in a hurry. The talent's not going to be an issue. Your quarterback room loaded. Hell, Jimbo's saying we're going basically 3 deep now. No excuses in that department. And he was asked about Damon Demas. Would not get into that. Demas is in the portal. If you missed it, we talked about that on the last episode, but just something to be aware of. Now, next, let's kick it on down to Fayetteville, where Arkansas is back on the field after a long spring break, cut their spring camp in half here. And fascinating revelation here, something that I hit on with John Neighbors when he was on the show about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Go back and check that out if you missed it, a preview of the Arkansas Razorbacks spring camp. And the revelation, according to Sam Pittman, he was on ESPN. Arkansas hit the line here on Tuesday. Malik Hornsby getting some looks at receiver, which I know a lot of fans are excited about. But to me, this goes back to the fact that we've just got to get all the playmakers on the field we can to surround KJ Jefferson with talent. The receiver position is a question mark for the Razorbacks. I know everybody's hyped up about Jadon Hazelwood, but I got to be honest. When I went back and studied all Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma to get a sense of the talent that South Carolina's getting in their new quarterback, I figured I'd kill 2 birds with one stone, get a look at Hazelwood. I'm already, there was somebody, I can't remember who, but someone has got Hazelwood as a preseason All-American, and just based on what I've seen, that's ridiculous. I would say that at Oklahoma, he was about the 3rd or 4th best receiver. Now, he was injured a lot. He was banged up. And even here in Fayetteville, he's practicing with a non-contact jersey this week. So, they're doing what they can to keep him healthy because they are certainly going to need him. But I say all that to say this. I'm not trying to trash him. I'm just saying set your expectations. If you think he's another Treylon Burks, you're kidding yourself, because from the day Treylon Burks stepped on campus there in Fayetteville, he was arguably the top player on the team. He's going to be a first-round pick here in a couple weeks. Jadon Hazelwood is not that. So we've got to get as many playmakers on the field. Great point by Sam Pittman here. You saw what the offense looked like without Treylon Burks in the bowl game, and it was not pretty for the passing game. So let's kick it over to Sam Pittman, talking about the receiver depth there in Fayetteville and getting Malik Hornsby some extra looks at other positions in spring camp.
I think the biggest question mark, at least offensively, would be the wide receiver room. What are we going to do? I think we have some talent there. I think we have some young talent there. But if you look at our bowl game, without Burks, we didn't have a lot of productivity in the throwing game. Now, part of it was second half. We ran for around 300 yards. I get that. But we've got to develop that room. I still think we need to go in the portal to get another guy. But I think Hazelwood will be probably the leader of that group.
The country, take your pick. The most popular man on the team is the backup quarterback, and people are going to know kind of what kind of role is Malik Hornsby going to play this year. What are you all going to try to is it going to be different packages, or what's the plan for him going forward?
Well, I think certainly we've got to give him an opportunity to win the job, which we're doing that. The second thing, we've kind of almost restructured our practice so Malik can, get some wide receiver type looks, maybe some him and KJ on the field at the same time, whether he be out wide or whether he's in the box. I think he has too much talent to be on the sideline. Now, with that said, I think he needs every 2 rep that he can get at quarterback. So we kind of restructured it where it's not 1s, 2s, 3s, it's 1, 3, 2s, so we can get him some wide receiver type look, him and KJ on the field at the same time with the 1s, then have the rest with the 3s out at practice, and then him take all the 2s at quarterback. So we cannot afford not to look at him because of his speed and his athletic ability to get the ball in his hands and be sitting on the sideline just in case he doesn't win the quarterback job. We've got to be prepared to get him and help so he can help us win games.
Now, speaking of Treylon Burks, of course, Arkansas fans, you remember this well, but, last season, credit Kendall Browse, he found a lot of unique ways to get Burks the ball, and that included a lot of sweeps, a lot of, even at times, coming out of the backfield, a la Deebo Samuel that we're seeing. Now you're understanding why you're seeing these Treylon Burks, Deebo comparisons among draft analysts, but I think Malik Hornsby can come in and fill in some of those responsibilities that we had Burks doing with the sweeps, with the running out of the backfield, and he may arguably be the fastest player on Arkansas's roster, and it would be silly to just have that guy on the bench the entire time. And look at it this way, I know Sam Pittman's not out here saying this, but if you get Malik Hornsby and KJ Jefferson on the field at the same time, there's nothing to say that KJ Jefferson can't be the receiver on a reverse or a trick play. Hell, I can imagine KJ Jefferson being in a unique situation, beating in the back of the end zone is almost like a tight end type prospect. He's got the build to do that. So this would just add flexibility, something else for SEC defenses to fixate on and have to prepare for. So I love to see this, but on the flip side here, we also got to consider the fact that if we got our backup quarterback taking reps at receiver, that doesn't give me a ton of confidence that the coaching staff is completely satisfied with what the team's got to work with at receiver. And hell, we just had Sam Pittman here saying we're going to have to utilize the transfer portal to add some depth to that position group. So just something to keep in mind here. as we're a couple weeks away from the conclusion of Arkansas Spring. All right, next let's kick it on down to Oxford, where, again, I mean, hell, anytime Lane Kiffin's talking, he's talking NIL, he's talking transfer portal. This edition is all about the transfer portal and how they're utilizing it down there in Oxford to reload from last season's 10-win campaign there. Of course, the best regular season in school history. But how interesting. This is one of the biggest mysteries to me in the SEC this year, is how a program can possibly do this and rebuild the roster basically almost exclusively through the transfer portal. This truly is an NFL-style free agency, and Kiffin's holding nothing back here. They're basically using spring practice to evaluate the roster to understand where they need to attack next in the transfer portal. So there's going to be more transfers to come here in Oxford. Let's kick it over to Lane Kiffin.
I just think the portal guys, are more, it's not a hit and miss as a high school guy, because you're seeing them play college football. So, those guys, not to just focus on them, but they have looked really good. And, we didn't really take a lot of guys necessarily that were at a major place but not playing, that left just because they were unhappy because they were sitting on the bench. And then that's more of a wild card, because you're getting them and you really haven't seen film. Maybe they just sat out and redshirted or barely played. Most of these guys played, so it's that's been good, because it kind of, the analytics of it, as you look at it, you're saying, okay, well, here's these guys and they all look like they can help us, versus when you get your high school guys, the first week or two, you see some guys say, oh, those guys can help us, and some guys that are probably, a ways away. I don't know. I know I equate things to professional sports a lot, or the NFL, because that's really what we are now in all areas. It's professional sports. So to me, it's no different than having mini camps, looking at everybody, and then you have a few guys that you see right before training camp, that are still free agents out there, that usually veteran guys that NFL says, okay, well, we're worried about this spot, and so we go and sign somebody up there. So definitely.
Not to ask for specifics, but has that happened yet at all, where you're in your mind, you're like, we probably need somebody here, as opposed to like winning? Yeah,
I mean, I do that every day, but I try to slow up and wait for all the practices, because that's better to have more input and not try to fix problems right now. And so just try to be patient with that.
Hey, so credit my man Jake Wimberly. If you missed it, go back on the last episode. But this is exactly what he's talking about. It's much easier to evaluate these guys in the portal. You got college film on them than even it is high school and junior college players. So, Jake knows what he's talking about. That's why he's on the show. And one of the guys that Ole Miss fans need to know now, if they don't already, the Southern Cal transfer tight end Michael Trigg. 1 season at Southern Cal, only played in 4 games, but had 7 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown, and just a physical specimen here. And I'm hearing great things about him, and that's, use the S word here, special. Called Michael Trigg a special talent here. Big-time potential for the new Ole Miss tight end.
What have you seen from Michael Trigg so far? He was obviously pretty dynamic at the USC when he was available. What does he kind of look like so far?
I mean, I don't like telling this because everybody says this, but it's probably told him this forever. I mean, his potential is unbelievable. His catching radius and balance and body control is just, they don't make many like that in the world, and so he's done great things already. And it is crazy, like I told the staff, because we just kind of think of portal as like free agency, like those are the older ones. This guy's in his 2nd semester of college, which is crazy to think about when you see his skill set. So we're obviously really excited about him.
So anytime I hear comments like this from Kiffin, I just imagine him staying up all night trying to figure unique ways to get these players that he calls special talents, ways to get them the football. He's like a damn mad scientist up there. So I'm very intrigued to see what the Rebels have in store for Michael Trigg next fall. And again, this is like I said, this just makes Ole Miss one of the biggest wild cards in the SEC because you don't know how they're going to roll out, what they're going to look like. And I don't know about you, but I love surprises. So, all right, last team we're going to hit on here. Let's jump on down to Rocky Top. It's been well documented the turnaround Josh Heupel and his staff have already done on Rocky Top. Going to a bowl game. Now you're getting a 5-star quarterback committed. Just had a really solid recruiting class. Trying to build on that. Trying to build a top 10, top 5 class on top of that. But, that's having such an eye on the future. You can't forget the guys that laid the foundation because, given the transfer portal era, so many guys could, as soon as there's a coaching change, what happens? They jump in the portal, look for greener pastures, and, a number of upperclassmen there at Tennessee. You got to remember, hell, I'm sitting here acting like it didn't happen. Tennessee was just ravaged by guys jumping in the portal after Pruitt got fired. And a lot of these high-profile guys, hell, we got some in Alabama, Michigan State, Oklahoma, of course. All across the country, Power 5 teams were taking players from Tennessee's roster. But it was guys like Velus Jones Jr., Kenneth George, stuck it out, had room to grow, and now the Pro Day is upon Tennessee. Their Pro Day's here on Wednesday. I just thought those were some interesting comments from Velus Jones Jr. on the development and how this coaching staff was able to elevate his game. And Kenneth George, who you remember a couple of years ago, he got arrested, suspended from the team. It was some pretty ugly allegations. I believe it was an officer involved, resisting arrest and some kind of assault. So he's managed to put that behind him, rebounded with a solid season here. So here's Velus Jones Jr. and Kenneth George on, what they learned and how Josh Heupel and his coaching staff helped them to play the best football of their career.
It helped me out a lot, even with Coach Eckler allowed me to be a punt returner. It made me increase my value when it comes to being on the team because at the end of the day, they all say you got to go and take a grown man position. And, that's what I'm prepared to do now from this past year. And just like, even with the coaching staff, like the positive energy, being like around a real family, it gave you all the confidence, you needed to perform well, that knowing that your brothers were behind you. Everybody was happy for each other, even though we competed every day for a position. And the coaching staff so encouraging. And even if you did mess up, they telling you it's fine, like forget about it, like next play. And so, man, a lot played into it with Coach Heupel coming in and also with the practices. Coach Heupel practiced like NFL teams where during the season we don't wear full pads. And, because he's all about he want to be the fastest, freshest team on Saturdays. And I feel like that played a part of it as well when it came to dodging injuries and things like that. Because I feel like in this game, a lot of people got the talent, a lot of people got the will and stuff, but injuries will definitely slow you down in this game. And the most important thing in this game is being available. And so, yeah, Coach Heupel helped out major when it came to my mentality, taking the field each day like a pro, taking every rap like a pro, and always like preaching that and reminding us over and over. So this past season with this coaching staff definitely played a big role when it comes to mentality, especially getting ready for the next level.
What's the biggest thing that you think the coaching staff, Coach Banks or Coach Eckler, has taught you that will translate into the NFL?
Accountability for sure. Ever since Coach Hype, Coach Banks, Coach Martinez walked into the building, they were big on accountability and, just doing everything right, even when people's not looking, I made a couple mistakes when I was younger and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that, but, just being accountable and, being able to admit that I was wrong in certain situations and things like that. So just about them coming in, being big on accountability is going to last with me the rest of my life.
But, of course, you exceed expectations. What do the fans want? They want those the expectations rise immediately. And Knoxville's nowhere different. We're 7-6 great for last season, considering that many people thought Tennessee about the 6th best team in the East. But hell, you finished 3rd in the East again. It's going to be a disappointment to a lot of fans around Big Orange Country. And Rodney Gardner is here to let you know, the touted defensive line coach, hey, we didn't come here to go 7-6. You come to Tennessee to win championships, SEC championships, national championships. I just thought, we put an eye towards the past, now an eye towards the future. Rodney Gardner, rest assured, is working particularly his defensive line, whip them up and get them ready to play here this fall, because they're going to be counted on to lead the way for this Tennessee defense.
Coach, obviously there's always things to work on and things to improve on, but with guys that are returning, that familiarity with the program, the system, your expectations, how much have you seen that pay off in terms of technique here early on in practice?
Well, obviously, all of us, we have to reassess everything that we're doing. Our expectations, obviously, I think maybe we exceeded some expectations, last year, but it's still not the expectations that we want, that we came to the University of Tennessee for, So we've got to raise the bar, and we've got to continue to raise the bar. I don't think any of those young men, when they signed to come to Tennessee, they signed to say they wanted to come and be a part of a 7-6 program. All right, they said they wanted to come and compete for championships, SEC championships, national championships. I know that's what I want. I know that's what Tennessee wants. I know that's what the expectation is. So we've got to continue to reassess everything that we're doing and make sure that we're continuing to move the needle in the right direction.
All right, so hey, that's all we got on this episode of the show. Like I've been saying all week, we got 2 more guests lined up for the show, a South Carolina guest, a Texas A&M guest. So should be a great pair of shows to finish the week strong. But as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. If you made it this far and you wouldn't mind giving us that 5-star written review on the Apple Podcast app, or on Spotify, you can rate us now too. If you're an Android person, we really, really would appreciate each and every one of those. And we'll send you a beer koozie free of charge just for doing that. Just send those reviews on over to that secpodcast@gmail.com. But that's going to do it for today's show. We'll catch you on the next one.